Okay guys, we are back to finish the sculpture. It's taken me quite a bit of time. And we are going to be working on the feet, the hands, the head, and finally pull it all together. It's pretty important to bring the entire sculpture together, and this time we need to focus on the smaller details. So in the beginning, of course, you work on your sculptures, and one thing I keep telling you guys, don't work on any details because you tend to move things around. So in this part, I'm going to be doing all these little things. And for me, it's always been difficult to push myself to a certain point past this. So it takes much more time than you might think. Now, this sculpture, generally, a sculpture like this takes me about a week to create, really just a few days if I really have time. But because I've been busy with other projects, unfortunately, I could not get a lot of videos to you guys, but I did manage to get this one. So hopefully you'll enjoy this series. Left foot, this left leg, presents a pretty interesting challenge because it is elevated, it's stretched. That means that it's kind of fragile. That's why there's that stump of clay holding it up. Using clay to engineer waves of support is really good because it doesn't really destroy anything and it keeps that limb a little bit wetter. If you sculpted this and you did not put that piece of clay underneath, that foot would dry so much and so uneven compared to the body that you would have probably some issues with cracking. I still like to keep water on the sculpture, so even though this sculpture is kind of drying up, I try to keep it nice and wet to a certain point. And also overnight, I put a bag over it, make sure that it doesn't completely dry. After this session, I will be removing the bag and letting it dry at room temperature, so I don't put it in a kiln right away. That is one thing that I get questions often. Should you put your sculpture as it is right now in a kiln and fire it? And the answer is no. You want this to dry by itself. So what I do is I just put it in a room, I let it dry for, usually in my case, a few months, but I do it in a few months because I just want it to be completely dry. The less water you have in the sculpture, the better the firing. And of course, I'm also going to be doing a 3D scan before I put it in the kiln. There's a couple of things that happen. So sometimes you could potentially screw up the inside. Perhaps a part is not vented right. Maybe the firing is going to go fast and it could break the sculpture. I've had that happen in numerous sculptures. But this particular clay that I'm using is really good for that. It has grog, and grog really helps out the firing process. Now to the head. This particular thing I like using is a brush, a bristle brush. If you have painters in your family or you know any oil painters, they're going to have these brushes, and it's best to get old brushes because old brushes are worn out, they're harder, they're not soft, and that's exactly what you need for this sort of technique. The bristles really act like a cloth. You brush muscles together, so if you want to have a muscle group blend with the skin, it's a really good way of blending. And also, don't get carried away with just the brush. You have to use different textures. I don't use textures to create textures for the sake of it. For example, I like to use the metal dental tools because they create a different sheen on sculpture. So when you fire it, you have a different surface that reacts differently. And any bone that comes to the surface, like the acromion process, the scapula, the clavicle, the zygomatic bone, the cartilage of the nose, I will create a sheen using either the silicone tool or those dental tools because that creates a lot of interest. So in sculpture, you do have what draftsmen call variety of line. And that's one thing that I do see missing from a lot of contemporary sculptors is that variety of line. I like sculptures that are a little bit painterly in one way and realistic in others. I like them to be naturalistic, but also at the same time, I want to know that it was made by a human being. And by having a variety of line in your sculpture, you tell your audience that it was made by a person. I kind of like that. And since I've been doing a lot of 3D printing, I realized that I really like all the imperfections that a water sculpture has and the quality of painting that it feels like it has. 3D printing, on the other hand, it feels just like that. It removes all the subtleties that make it look like it was made by a human. So you lose that quality, but you still get a replica. I will be doing a 3D scan of this, so stay tuned, and I will be getting a new 3D scanner, so I'm very curious about that. Another tool I like using, of course, is something that you can use even for larger sculptures. Notice that as soon as I use this, even though it leaves a little surface texture, you can blend muscle groups extremely well using this cloth. One of the details I decided to put is I'm not sure what to call it. It's just a ring around her head, a bracelet or some sort of head crown. And it's like a pearl type of thing that she's wearing. It looks kind of cool. It adds a little bit of interest to the sculpture. Now the part that gets difficult are the hands, the feet, and the arms and the legs, and of course the head. But I want to have a little bit more detail in the hands. I want to be able to show that the hands are a little bit more elegant. These details are not going to be coming up in the 3D scan, and 3D printing never shows that level of detail, which is something that I'd like to eventually get a better 3D scanner. You are kind of forced to use small tools at this point. There's not many ways to go about it, but you can either try and sculpt the hand with every single detail, or you can create just the general shape and add some details on the hand so it looks like it's a naturalistic hand. Same thing for the feet. I get my sprayer, I sprayed the foot. This really creates something as if you are painting. And after this dry, it doesn't look as good, and that's one of the reasons that after this dries, there's another process that I use, and that's the wax. I could paint it, but one of the things I do tend to like is the natural color of the terracotta. I think for this one, I will probably be painting it something closer, maybe some sort of sienna or burnt umber, and then putting wax over it. So I'm not quite sure. I'm also interested in hearing what you guys have to say about a possible paint on top of it. So let me know, and then I'll do that. But in previous years, I have done these sculptures and I just added wax, and I think that looks great. The brown wax that I've been using with just a little bit of paint, it looks really nice. And of course, using these bristle brushes, you get to the parts that are very difficult to get your hands in. And the more water you use, the more effective the brush is going to be. But don't get carried away. You want to use the brush, but also at the same time, you want to be able to use other tools to create that variety of line. So we're pretty much done with the sculpture, and I did learn a lot. You know, one of the things is I stretched the sculpture out quite a bit, and I am sorry about that. Been busy with other stuff, and I do work on it whenever I can. I plan on doing a few more of these drapery studies in the future. This one was very difficult to do. So the next step really is to just let it dry and then fire it for a permanent sculpture and then put something on top. There's multi-steps to all of these sculptures, and I have videos on the channel with all of this. So if you found it useful, just make sure you give me a like and a subscribe. I will keep pushing myself to do more and more of these sculptures. And if you have an idea for future sculptures, put it in the comments below. I'm always curious. And I have done sculptures based on just a comment. So sometimes it just sparks some ideas. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next sculpture.